Hi there. Welcome. I'm Bob Thompson, and I'd like to welcome you to the Philanthropic Planner program. We've been on for about 65 years now, somebody told me, but Philanthropic Planner is designed for you, for me, maybe wannabes, volunteers, professional planners, development people, and attorneys, planners, accountants, and so on. So we've got the donor philanthropist on one side, we've got the professional advisor on the other side, and believe it or not, I hear from both sides, good and bad, good and bad. But what we're trying to do is provide a friendly forum in the community to talk about philanthropy, as boring as it might be, to have meaningful dialogue about the importance of philanthropy in all of its various forms to the community, the importance of really having an awareness, a greater awareness of the importance, and to share with you what others are doing in similar situation, talk about capacity, talk about social aspects of a part of our culture, a part of our history and that. But in general, not get into legalese. We want to simplify the complexity or the perceived complexity. I should stop saying perceived because many aspects of this are complex, and that's why you need a qualified advisor, either the attorney to draft some documents or working with the development officers or what have you. But we really want to reduce or diminish the idea that it's so complex that I can't get into that area. But welcome. We are pleased to have you, and if this is the first time, we want to put on a program that maybe you'll come back and visit with us. Just reading the current issue of Chronicle of Philanthropy, and we'll get into some news on a national and international basis. But let me share with you at the beginning here that I have some concerns. This may be an emergency alert. I'm not into this conspiracy thing, but I experienced last night kind of an underground movement, a conspiracy that I just have to share with you. We have, unbeknownst, not communicated until last evening, that there's a contest out there to help Bob with getting titles to his TV program, The Philanthropic Planner. Now, the event last evening was at Riverview, and it was a part of the Hartford Symphony Orchestra and the Tower series, and this is the first of its kind. Just as an aside, I hope they repeat it next year. But I found out from some, maybe I should say, former friends that there's this contest out there, and one suggestion offered was maybe we should have something like the title of Bob's from Outer Space with his philanthropy, charitable strategies from Bob's Moon. You know, I guess these were meant to be complimentary titles, but the one that we can't use came from Doug from the K less or the less K table, but Doug recommended maybe roadkill. Let me share with you that we are not, Doug, we're not going to use roadkill, at least in the foreseeable future and until I run out of a lot of titles. But enjoyed it, and I'm going to keep my eye out on this underground movement, this conspiracy. Well, we've got a lot to cover today. I do want to share with you some news out of the Chronicle of Philanthropy. In today, this week's edition, they're talking about a survey, and I believe Bank of America funded this survey. About 54% of the charities out there, this is on a national basis, 54% are really looking at 2013. They doubt, 54% doubt that they can meet the demand for services that they provide. The crunch of money, even though we're seeing kind of a loosening and an improvement in the economy, slight, very slight, but an improvement there. But charities, nonprofits are scrambling in a lot of different ways. They're getting some concern expressed by their constituency that the charities, the nonprofits have to upgrade their data, that there has to be more efficiency in the nonprofit. There's an effort to collaborate with different organizations. For example, up in Boston, I believe the Hearth of Boston is collaborating with the YMCA, and they're sharing data to better serve homeless people. We have other examples of that with the Salvation Army, collaborating and sharing data and so on. So there's a concerted effort there to be more efficient, to save dollars, and to really look for funds in non-traditional, or what we used to think were untraditional ways, non-traditional. And one of those articles was that giving online over the past months, and we're looking at 2012 last year, giving online increased over 21%. And if we carry forward proactively and look at the current year, they anticipate that will continue to increase. So a lot of charities and nonprofits are looking at methods of, and I may have mentioned this in the last couple of programs, that rather than sending in a one-time contribution of $50 or what have you, $100, that if I can automatically on a regular monthly basis contribute $10 a month. Well, if we do the math and we do this on a social media context, and the peer, we're not having as much success on the peer pressure, if I can call it that, with respect to kind of resonating and getting legs with a kindred spirit out there. We're finding an alternative to that with affinity groups, where we're going out rather than through the social media aspect of it, depending on affinity groups, starting with maybe boards or volunteers or what have you, and collectively over a year have kind of dues or association kind of things where everybody in the group would donate, make a pledge of $100 or even $1,000 a year and have that pooled. I think we mentioned that a couple of times before, and an example that I'm familiar with in Warren, Ohio, and they have a local group of professionals, of people on various boards with various nonprofits, and they contribute $1,500 a year, and they have a group of 100. So throughout the year, they're really serving in a mini way, a small way, like a community foundation would, where this group of 100 takes grant requests, or they recognize some needs in the local community and will dole out grants and so on. So 54% of nonprofits looking at this year saying, we really doubt whether we're going to be able to deliver our services and meet the demands. And we have this ongoing thing we've talked about where charities are receiving less and depending less on government aid and substance return and so on, subsidizing from the government entities and so on. So charities are recognizing that and moving their efforts somewhere else or in other directions. In the New York Times a couple of weeks ago, a very, very good article about philanthropy among young inheritors. Now, in our financial planning firm, we've seen evidence of this a number of times over the last couple of years, where a couple or an individual will receive an inheritance and dedicate that inheritance or a major part of it to charity over their lifetime. That mom and dad had these monies, we split with our siblings, and the couple, they're empty nesters, their children are doing fine and so on. But the monies that were inherited, they are devoting for their charitable mission, their causes and so on, and hopefully passing that on at their death. So I thought philanthropy among young inheritors kind of struck home with our practical experience. I'll skip over IRS tips. We're in tax season. We're finishing up tax season, and we need to talk about, rather than history of last year in our tax records, and maybe we'll talk more about this in the next program, but be proactive in your planning ahead for the next 6, 8, 10 months on your charitable activity and guaranteeing, if you will, that you have records on your gifts. And we'll talk about what IRS thinks is their top 10 tips in doing that. Conversations on a local basis. I received this nice communication, this piece called Conversations. Linda Kelly is the president of the Hartford Foundation of Public Giving, and I haven't sent a note, but this is a nice communication piece. And the reason I thought this was appropriate for our program today is that on the back page of this piece is new funds and planned gifts. And what struck my eye, caught my eye, was a number of these. Now this is Greater Hartford region, but a number of these were for scholarship funds, for an endowment fund, for a donor advised fund, for from an anonymous couple, and from D&BC. I won't repeat their name other than their initials. I don't have permission, but in this brochure talks about a Simsbury couple establishing a charitable gift annuity. We've talked about charitable gift annuities, and this particular couple wanted the remainder interest after their lifetime income from the charitable gift annuity to benefit McLean Foundation Endowment Fund. And we have another Simsbury couple creating a donor advised fund for income for their life, or no, the charitable gift annuity, I'm sorry, income for their life, and after that, source of income for local causes that they have evidence there. Another couple, gift annuity, and it is going to the area conference of churches. Another, and there are 4 in this of people from Simsbury talking about or recognized for their funds set up with the Hartford Foundation of Public Giving. Also in here is some projects of restoration, historical sites, raising a barn or restoring a barn in Glastonbury that will have a 21st century museum as a part of it, covered bridge, a couple of buildings that are being restored and so on. But I thought this particular piece was very, very good. Congratulations, Hartford Foundation of Public Giving. That's on the good side. The bad side is, and I've got to refer to my favorite publication, the Hartford Courant, in the Sunday section, Smarter Living. Here's an article, quite lengthy article, on future savings. And the essence of this article is about the benefits of paying down, pre-amortizing, paying down, and eliminating mortgages. On one side, I'm happy that, especially by a local reporter and not part of the corporate editing, but talking about money, talking about how people can harness the power of their money in many respects. The good part, but to have an article about paying down mortgages and also talk about a couple that had this mindset, and I don't know how old or when that was seated in their mind, but had this mindset to get out of these mortgage payments. We're in historical lows as far as interest rates are concerned. And it didn't matter through these cycles in the market, a cycle in their own personal experience. The gentleman of this couple lost his job and was unemployed. They talked about the sacrifice of paying for college and so on for the children, and still prepaying on their mortgage. That's fine. I mean, that's good Yankee philosophy. They're looking forward to retirement. Excuse me. They're looking forward to retirement, and they would love not to have a mortgage payment in their retirement. What bothers me about this type of article, and you ask, how does this fit into philanthropy? It's very easy. And part of it is what's missing in this article is we do not talk about inflation. We don't talk about taxation, deducting interest on these payments. So if I have a fixed 30-year mortgage payment and I factor in inflation, which doesn't go like this, it goes like this with my purchasing power. But what else don't I have in this type of article? The magic and the power of compounding, which is the reverse of this mortgage. We look at the interest we're paying, but we fail to look at the interest on interest on interest, which is the basic part of compounding. I've mentioned Einstein, great scientist. He is quoted to say, the greatest invention known to mankind is compounding. And yet in this article, people will look at this and say, oh yes, I want to get rid of my mortgage. But we don't look ahead and talk about inflation and taxation and the loss opportunity of compounding. So forgive my my soapbox in that direction, but at one hand, I like the idea that we're talking about money and being more efficient, both on the personal sector and on the charitable nonprofit sector. Being more efficient is very good, but if I have this mindset that I fail to recognize that there's a difference between good debt and bad debt, and I submit to you there are certain good debt that we can follow if we're disciplined to take the difference in that and compound that. Going back to the conspiracy, and this is kind of contra to this name calling thing, but I haven't shared with you the title of today's program. I do want to share with you a letter that I received 2 or 3 weeks ago, March 16th as a matter of fact. Dear Bob, and this will just take a minute. My husband and I have been enjoying volunteering since retiring several years ago. Now I'm even serving on one of the boards. At a recent board meeting, someone mentioned your Planning for Charity program on TV. Very interesting. Very interesting comments about your willingness to discuss the importance of supporting local charities and how all of us can do more in giving back. My sister and I were raised in a small town in northwestern Pennsylvania. Mom and Dad were hard workers, but always had time to help others in need. Every year, Dad would be asked to prepare and clean up afterwards for the weekly bingo games at our church. He said the church really needed the extra dollars that came from bingo night. Mom was a nurse, but even after work and on weekends, she would be caring for a needy family who couldn't afford a doctor or couldn't afford to go to the hospital. Patrick and I recently cleared some of our cobwebs and finally dusted off our old wills. The children are all grown and have their own families. We're proud parents and grandparents. Truly blessed, Bob. The reason for my note is that we followed one of your suggestions and set up a fund, what you call a donor-advised fund, with the Hartford Foundation, and made a provision in our wills to transfer 10% of our estate at the death of me and Patrick. Parens, did I mean survivor? And parens. To our plan, 10% to our plan at the Hartford Foundation. We listed organizations to receive annual gifts for their operations and hope our children will be involved then too. The children agree and approve, in quotes, our action. Thanks for letting me share with you how good we feel having done this planning. And thanks for your TV charity ideas. Signed, Mary Beth. P.S. Patrick and I both think you have a wonderful sense of humor. I changed one of the names. I won't tell you whether it's Mary Beth or Patrick, but I kept one and I changed the other. But thank you very, very much for this letter. And I want to go back and refer to recently cleared some of our cobwebs and finally dusted off our old wills. Well, the program title today is Cobwebs, and get out your Philanthropic Duster. So I'm going to hear groans from my staff, from my family, and from some of these conspirators out there about my duster and cobwebs. But in this case, Mary Beth talked about hers and Patrick's old wills. And she dusted them off because there were some cobwebs in there, and they changed a dollar amount in their wills to charity to a percentage. And we've talked about that. A percentage today keeps up, and if Mary Beth and Patrick live another 10, 20, 30 years, if we look at inflation and how that erodes the purchasing power of the dollar to the charity that wants to be more efficient and so on, a percentage of 10% or 5% or whatever your capacity and your willingness to devote at some time in the future your bequest to missions and charities of your interest. So I submit to you that there are cobwebs, and I hesitate in saying this because we're getting around spring, and my wife, I'm sure, is going to tell me, can you get up there and take care of that cobweb? And I may even have to do some dusting. But I share with you that there are things that we've done years and years and years ago. The children in this case are 49, 52, and 56, and they have guardians listed in their current wills, and they needed to be redone. Along with the wills come these ancillary, these companion documents of power of attorney, durable power of attorney, health agents, and so on. But we need to dust them off and redo some of these documents. Okay, in closing, we've got some additional things, and I could devote a whole program to this when, forgive me, I talk about government, that we need smaller government, but If we look at the history of mankind and we look at people in power, we look at those in power, how they will play down and even hide the interest of giving back, public giving, charities. And there's an article in the Chronicle of Philanthropy where the Kremlin moves to paralyze Russian nonprofits. And in this article, there were 100 nonprofits identified within a couple months of tax police, government officials coming in and saying to the nonprofit that you can't do this, you can't provide for the needy, you cannot and will not do this. That's under the umbrella of the government. The government will provide that. And in our country, our culture, we have a history of public, private, and the third sector. And that third sector, we should not diminish the importance. We need to encourage giving back. We need to encourage philanthropy in all of its forms. And a lot of that comes from, like Mary Beth, she and Patrick, since retiring, are volunteering and giving back to the community. So I share that with you. Thank you again, Mary Beth, for your kind letter. And I will say to Doug again, your suggested title is kind of offbeat, and we aren't going to use roadkill. But to the space experts out there, maybe Bob is on the moon, maybe Bob is out of space, but we enjoy talking about the benefits of philanthropy and hope that you'll come back and join us. And while you're at it, write a check for $50 or $100 and send it to Simsbury Community TV. Thanks again. We'll see you the next time.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.